Johnson heads to the pocket. Layup. Johnson, good!
All right, welcome back, everybody, here to Talkin Sports with Chris Powers, as we have another exciting week of sports all around South Louisiana and around the nation. This show is seen 5 times over the week on Tuesdays at 11 a.m., Thursdays 11 a.m. and 7 p.m., Fridays at 9 p.m., and Saturdays at 8:30 p.m. It's seen in over 2 million households. 89% of the New Orleans metro area still owns Cox Cable, and Pelican Sports is on Cox Cable. Plus, we're also here in the Baton Rouge area. About 340 to 350,000 customers still has it, and 140,000 in the Lafayette area, also parts of Livingston Parish, as well as Morgan City. Also want to thank our great sponsors here. We have TJ Ribs, we have Tony Clayton, and, of course, now Livingston Tourism. Very good deals with that. All right, we've got breaking news, of course. This will be all throughout the week, of course, but just coming in today, Marshawn Lattimore, cancer in the Saints locker room, has been traded to the Washington Commanders. He's gone. That's good, because Michael Thomas had a locker here. Marshawn Lattimore had a locker here. They were together. Both of them have been the problems. Both of them have come from Ohio State. They've been a problem for the Saints in cancer and talking and jabbing. Marshawn Lattimore did not want to come to spring practice. He didn't demand a trade, but he said him and Dennis Allen had some an awkward situation, is what he said. And so he did not come into spring camp. He is a prima donna. Enjoy yourself in Washington. You're in the perfect city in that swamp, so you can have it. For that, though, the Saints they traded a 2025 picks, the 3rd and 4th rounder, also gave Saints a 2025 6th-round pick. They acquired in a previous trade this summer for defensive tackle John Ridgway III. In addition to Lattimore, Washington received a 2025 5th-round pick from the Saints. So Marshawn Lattimore is gone from the Saints, and so is the guy he had the problem with, Dennis Allen. Dennis Allen has been fired by the Saints. When he got back from the trip to Carolina and that loss to Carolina, early Monday morning he was called into the office. He was fired at that point, was told that thank you for your 15 years of service here at the Saints as defensive coordinator and other assistant coaches here and there. I mean, other assistant jobs that he had there, and, of course, the head coach for the last almost 3 seasons. But your services will no longer be needed. He's gone. He's out. Dennis Allen is fired. You could see the players were not playing for him anymore. They didn't give them their all. It started really last year when they played against the Atlanta Falcons, and the Falcons, were getting their behind kicked badly, and the Saints gave Williams that last touchdown. When Dennis Allen told them to kneel down, the team didn't listen to him. They drove, and they scored the touchdown and win that game. They won the game easily by then anyway, but they were stacking it on there. But that's when you show right there they have no fear of Dennis Allen at all. Players are hurt. Some players legitimately hurt. Some players, that's the way it does in the NFL. I mean, I'm not playing for a losing football team. I don't know this coaching change. They hear of the whirlwinds, that coaching change is going to be changed. He's going to be gone. I'm not getting hurt just to watch, for me to play here, and this guy is gone anyway. And we're not going to make the playoffs as a 4th year in a row. I'm not going to come back. And that's he lost the locker room, I think, this season. He lost the locker room. With that situation happening and a couple of things like that happening, I think that's when he lost the locker room, and it was over. He was 18-25 in New Orleans and 26-53 overall. They're just not going to get it done. So Dennis Allen's aspirations of being a head coach ever again is over. He'll never be another head coach of the National Football League. Maybe in a college, doubt that even too. But as far as NFL goes, his reigns of being a head coach are over. They will never happen. Maybe an interim head coach, maybe it one day further down the line somewhere else, but that's it. Very good defensive coordinator, not this year, but over the previous years. I hate that he's going to be going. He had good schemes. He's going to get a job quick. He'll be a defensive coordinator somewhere pretty quick. The Saints' defense right now is 25th in the league, 25th in the National Football League. That's because of all the injuries they had. Now, when people say you shouldn't make injuries as an excuse, I don't want to say it's an excuse either, but the thing is that's the reason why they're where they're at. And Dennis Allen, just like I said, when you don't fear your head coach, you got a problem, man. You've got problems. That's what Jimbo Fisher didn't make it at A&M. All his locker room was absolutely out of control, and you don't have discipline on your football team. You've got everybody running around, and it's a rat race. So you can't have that. But the bottom line is that I think Dennis Allen is a good defensive coordinator, and I think that he's going to get a job somewhere quickly. I think they need to make a splash higher. I really do. I think the Saints fans deserve it. It's one of the best fan bases in the country. I'm not a big guy on let's get a young guy like a Sean Payton like they did before. I think you really need to get a good coach, and I think this job is good. Let's talk about it. All right, John Gruden is 117, 112 as a head coach. Not great. He'd won a Super Bowl. It's not a great overall record, but he's having to rebuild some teams like the Raiders, previous Las Vegas Raiders, and the Oakland Raiders he did as well. He rebuilt that team, and then they made the Super Bowl the next year, but he was in Tampa. He won it in Tampa where he was gone from the Oakland Raiders. So he's a very good offensive guy. Also, Derek Carr loves John Gruden. So, therefore, I think John Gruden, it would be fun to see him 117, 112. The only problem with John Gruden is that the National Football League would probably say he's got to serve a certain amount of game suspension because of the emails, which I don't agree with. Those emails were private. They weren't public, and it's crazy that it got out public. Even if it made it public, that's still no way. I mean, that's private emails that were sent. If Hillary Clinton can't get in trouble for him, John Gruden shouldn't be able to get in trouble for him. Mike Vrabel would be another good pick. I think I like him. He's 54-45 in Tennessee as a head coach. Went to the AFC Championship in 2019, lost to the Kansas City Chiefs. Made the playoffs 3 of his 6 years he was there. The problem is the last 2 seasons he did not make the playoffs. I don't know. Then you've got, of course, everybody wants to, fans want to say, well, I don't even know if fans want to say that. But what about Belichick? Don't know. Belichick wants full control of the football team. That's the only problem. Would they give him full control? I don't think he's a good player evaluator. I don't. I think he's a good coach. In fact, one of the best defensive minds in the world, and that's coming from NFL football players. NFL football players, there have been some players that have been traded. Like they played them 1 week and been traded another week before they play the Patriots. Like, say, for instance, guy played for the Cincinnati Bengals and they faced the New England Patriots. Then the next week, that Monday, he gets traded, let's say, to go to Oakland, and they're playing the Patriots. Then that player looked at the defense was totally different. That it's crazy that he can change a defense just like that from week to week. That's how good of a defensive coordinator he is. So I don't know if they would bring Belichick in here because, again, he demands full control. Now, Belichick has come out and said that he's going to give it 1 year, this year. If he doesn't find a job after that, he's officially fully retired. He's same age as Nick Saban. I think he's like a month or two older than Nick Saban. I don't think that he's, 72 years old. I don't think he would be ready to come back again. I just don't know. The front office, is this a good job? I think it is. And I think the way I'm getting it right now through the NFL eyes in articles that I've read, this is a good job. It would be a good job because the front office seems to be solid. They haven't had a top 5 pick since 2005. Wow. They'll have a top 5 pick this probably year, more than likely, and they have 6 overall draft picks now. Or now it's 7. They have 7 draft picks now. Bad thing all is the dead money, though, for the next few years. The Saints will be $60 to $70 million over the salary cap for next year. 60 to 70. That might come down a little bit with Lattimore gone, but $60 million around that area over the salary cap. One of the oldest teams in the National Football League. They have some key pieces still, but they're still one of the oldest teams in the National Football League. They still have some good pieces, like I said. All right. So, Jonathan, what say you about this situation? Dennis Allen is gone from the Saints.
Initially, Chris, I don't think it really shocked anybody. We kind of been talking about it for weeks now. Was he going to survive the season? I give Gail Benson a lot of credit. To pull the trigger in the middle of the season, I think Mickey Loomis is going to happen in the offseason. But to pull the trigger and get the future moving now, you talked about that game against Atlanta where it was obvious that Dennis Allen had lost the team. After that altercation with him apologizing to the head coach of the Falcons, the head coach of the Falcons kind of turns and says something. Well, here comes Darren Rizzi, who is now the interim head coach for the Saints, mouthing off, wanted all the smoke in right there in the bottom of the field, was ready to go toe-to-toe with the coach for the Falcons. Can't remember the guy's Arthur Smith, the guy's name was, but, yeah. I'm glad they did it. It had to be done. He had his opportunity to show what he could do for the last 3 years. Unfortunately, for Dennis Allen, it wasn't meant to be. I agree with you when you say you think he's a good defensive coordinator. I think the proof is in the pudding. He had a huge role in really the resurgence of the Saints defense, which perennially was not very good. You heard Tyrann Mathieu come out in press conference yesterday and say he takes part of the blame because he wasn't performing up to his Tyrann standard. So he had a contribution to the Dennis Allen getting fired. Foster Moreau came out and said pretty much the same thing. How the team's in a big hole, but everybody on the team had their turn holding the shovel. I thought that was pretty good. And Darren Rizzi, guy's been a long time special teams coordinator for the Saints. Also did some work with the Miami Dolphins with Dan Campbell. And some Saints fans are kind of saying that he gave off Dan Campbell vibes, and they were happy for Darren Rizzi to get a chance. I'll tell you what, this team's going to be fired up to go against play the Falcons. They understand that there's no one else to blame. The coach has been fired. Now it's all on the players and the people left in the building. Getting rid of Marshawn Lattimore, it's tough for me. Marshawn, I believe, was our best corner in Saints history. Out of Ohio State, he really set the standard. That 2017 draft class, him, Kamara, Ramczyk, one of the greatest, if not the greatest, in Saints history. Not maybe in NFL history. They did not miss on a single draft pick in that 2017 class. And what he contributed to the Saints, Pro Bowler, a lockdown corner, all those battles with Mike Evans, the rival Buccaneers team. I'm going to miss Marshawn. They had problems late in his career here with the Saints, getting along with the leadership. But I understand that. I mean, he was used to playing a certain brand, a certain standard of football, going to the playoffs each and every year, winning the NFC South. 6 out of 8 years, you get used to a certain standard of winning, and that wasn't getting done. Even on the defensive side of the ball, which is supposed to be Dennis Allen's trademark. Yes. Injuries absolutely played a part. It was an avalanche of injuries. And you say every team deals with injuries during the year, so injuries aren't an excuse. In this case, was special. It was significant. No team in the NFL was hit with injuries like the Saints. And look, Dennis Allen, great guy. Thankful for his time here at the Black and Gold, but it was absolutely time to make a move. And I believe Mickey Loomis is next out the door.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, when you saw talking about excuses, when people say not excuses, we have 19 guys on the injured reserve list, or 19 injured reserve, but injured list. You got the second string coming in. That's the reason he's second string, is because he didn't beat out the first string guy. So you got your play level drops down because of that. And that's what I'm saying. That's what when I kept seeing these guys, even played the game, kept saying that it's not an excuse, not an excuse. You got to be kidding me. You got to be kidding me. First coach to be fired in the Gail Benson or Tom Benson era.
Right.
You got to go back all the way back to 1980. Remember that? Remember that year?
Yeah. And Chris, to be honest, Derek Carr has played a huge role in this. Not only did he lose to the Panthers the first time in his career, now he's lost to 31 teams. The only team he hasn't lost to is the Las Vegas Raiders, who they play in December. So it's not too late. Derek Carr set another losing record. Saw that stat. It was crazy. I'll find it for you, Chris, on Twitter, and I'll read it to you. The most losses by any quarterback going back from like year 5 of the quarterback's career all the way to year 11, which Derek Carr is in now. The leaders in the clubhouse are both Carr brothers, which is crazy. Year 6, David Carr had lost more games than any other quarterback in 6 years of playing. Number 2 was Derek Carr. So, look, he comes back from injury, looked really average. Just looked really average. Couldn't score touchdowns, set up field goals early. The Carolina Panthers are terrible, and they beat the Saints. So it's time for a change, but everyone has accountability in coach getting fired, absolutely starting with the starting quarterback. Yeah,
no doubt about that. And then, obviously, Darren Rizzi takes over. He's a very colorful guy. If you remember, Derek Rizzi is the guy that basically told the NFL, not told the NFL, but they used his idea about the new kickoff rule. That came from Darren Rizzi. So he is well known in the National Football League. He's a fiery guy. Somebody said, well, maybe I had a friend of mine tell me maybe they'll keep him. Interim coach. Yeah. Not one interim coach that I can think of has made it in the National Football League.
Right.
It's not like Clemson and Dabo Swinney or even Coach O here. It doesn't work in the National Football
League. So here you go, Chris. I found it. So most losses as a starting quarterback through 4 seasons was David Carr with 43. Through 5 seasons was David Carr at 53. Through 6 seasons was David Carr at 56. Derek Carr was second on that list with 54. So you move on to 7 seasons. Derek Carr leads with 63 losses. Of course, it continues. In 8 seasons, Derek Carr 70 losses. 9 seasons, Derek Carr 79 losses. 10 seasons, Derek Carr 87 losses. And here we are. 11 seasons into their career, the quarterback with the most losses is actually tied, which Saints fans are not going to want to hear this. Derek Carr and Archie Manning both have 91 losses to lead that list. And look, the season's not over for Derek Carr to get that number 92.
Right. Now, do you think Derek Carr, I mean, I'll look at his mechanics. I don't see a problem with him and his mechanics. I wonder if he's been in bad situations. Obviously, the Raiders in that situation, the Raiders were a poor franchise.
Yep.
Al Davis passed it on to his son. They can't do anything right.
Yeah.
Nothing. Even that stadium that's been built.
Yeah.
They said locker room and facilities are horrible. They're terrible. Everything. But I wonder if he's been in bad situations because you remember that. So when his son took over, when he first got drafted. Oh, come on. Who was that guy? He was Carolina Panthers coach. Then he was a Vegas Raiders coach. I could see him right now. He's a defensive guy. He played at New Orleans. Do you remember who he is?
Wow. No, so he was the coach of the Raiders when
he was the coach of the Raiders when
well,
Carr
Dennis
was there.
Allen was the coach of the Raiders. That's the craziest part. Dennis Allen got fired twice for Derek Carr.
Right, yeah. And also 10 years apart.
Yeah, unbelievable.
And same season, too. Same season. He got fired after his third season. Well, he wasn't after, but he's still during his third season. He gets fired. What is that coach? I see his face right now, and he played for the Saints, and he's been all over the league. I'm going to look him up before I get my break because now I'm getting a brain fart for some reason. I'm getting a brain fart. I see his face right there, and he was the coach of the Oakland Raiders when Derek Carr got there. And he thought Derek Carr's good. John Gruden thinks Derek Carr's good. I just wonder if he's been in a bad situation. And I'm not saying he's a Drew Brees.
Right.
I'm not saying he's tier 1 coach. I think he's quarterback. I think he's tier 2. But he's better than a lot of those guys that they got. So I would be willing to try him in a good situation. That's why I don't know. You bring in a John Gruden, it could go really well. I don't know. Who do you think? Who would you like to see? And you got any wish list? I mean, whatever our wish list is, and fans' wish list, and media wish list, it never pans out.
Well, I'll give you one that might not be expected. A guy who was on the Saints staff for a long time, then left to go to Detroit with Dan Campbell, was Aaron Glenn, the secondary coach, now defensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions. He's going to get an NFL job, a head job here coming up real shortly. I wouldn't mind it being with the Saints for him to at least try out. Guy's going to be a head coach one day. Very smart, very articulate. Gets his guys fired up. I would not mind Aaron Glenn getting a shot in New Orleans. Also, you got Mike Vrabel out there, who's a proven winner, Super Bowl winner as a player. Took his team to the playoffs the first few years as a head coach. Defensive-minded guy. Of course, we already have Clint Kubiak as the offensive coordinator, so you don't need to bring in an offensive mind that to change the system. So it's got to fit the Saints. I think Darren Rizzi was the right guy to give it to it as an interim guy. The locker room absolutely loves him. He's got handshakes with like half the team, personal relationships with most of the team. And special teams coach don't often do that. They really just have their specific guys that come into the meetings. But a leader of men, a guy that really knows how to control the room, according to Foster Morrow. So, yeah, I like Dennis Rizzi. Hey, there's a couple guys floating out there. There's actually betting odds right now that's going on about who's going to get the job. Of course, 100-1 is Peyton Manning, which is not going to happen.
No.
But, guys like Joe Brady is on the list. NFL with the Bills, but was on an LSU 2019 team. But I would like to see Aaron Glenn. I think that would be my first pick if I had a fantasy draft of new upcoming head coaches. I would like Aaron Glenn to start his legacy down here in New Orleans.
Jack Del Rio. I was looking it up, and I was about to look it up.
There you go, yep.
And I just go to press it, Jack
right.
Del Rio. Remember, they came into the Superdome, and Derek Carr beat Jack Del Rio right at the end. And Del Rio and Carr beat the Saints. It was a last-minute drive, and Carr had a perfectly ball for the touchdown as they beat Sean Payton and the Saints in the Superdome.
And to answer your question, Chris, I think it has been some bad systems for Derek Carr, but that's not the entire story. Of course, you change over head coaches, which means change over offensive coordinators, which means change over terminology, players, timing routes with these guys that are just rotating in and out at wide receiver. You have Devontae Adams. They trade him away, and now Devontae Adams says he wants to come by Derek Carr. So Derek Carr has talent. I'm not going to say he's like completely mediocre. People like to play around him. He's a good leader. He's a good guy, a very gracious winner. But is he elite? I don't believe he's elite.
No.
Has he led Chris Olave into some headaches? Yeah, I do believe Derek Carr has played a big role in the injuries to Chris Olave.
Yeah, I do too. And, I think, first of all, and that's what the Saints are looking at right now. So defensively, defensive line is okay. Shocked today they didn't make any more trades than that so far. Matt Lattimore's the only guy that's gone.
Right.
We kind of thought some other guys would go.
And truly, Chris,
Includes Chase Young. I'm shocked Chase
Yeah,
Young didn't go.
Chase
The word
Young-
was Detroit wanted him, but Detroit got another defensive end.
Yeah, Chase Young would be the other prime candidate to get traded away here on the trade deadline. It's not over yet.
Yeah.
Saints still have time to make some moves. Unfortunately, the Saints have had such a bad year. It's going to be tough to offload some of these players, especially the players that are going to have to help that dead money situation. A lot of these contracts have just been, kicking the can down the road here for quite a number of years. And trading Lattimore is not going to solve that dead money problem overnight. But that's a good start.
Yeah, that's a very good start. Very good start. So, regardless, I think the Saints got a lot of, room to grow, to get better. I think their offensive line obviously got to get better. But you talk about a lot of NFL teams, offensive line for some reason right now is the weakest position in the National Football League. They're just not where they used to be. Don't know why, but offensive line seems to be a tough part right now in the league. Running backs, I think they need at least one more good bruising running back. I really do. Williams, I don't think is that guy. Kamara, I've been saying again, is he got his second 100-yard rushing game. I wouldn't trade Kamara. I'd keep him and use him as a better, better Taysom Hill than Taysom Hill on that other side. Watching Taysom Hill run is just incredible. That guy just gets through the line. I would never trade Taysom Hill ever, ever, ever. But I think the wide receiver needs to grow. I think we need at least two more wide receivers with Olave. I think we need more wide receivers. Tight end room, it's okay. That's offense. So defense, I think the defensive front can be okay. I think I'd love to see a couple more defensive tackles. Linebackers, Demario Davis eventually is going to drop off. He's kind of dropped off a little bit this year. I'd like to see another good linebacker. Pete Warner? Hey, great tackler, goes all over the football field, just like a Will Weeks. He's good, but he always gets injured. And the problem with Weeks is we showed it is he might be a little too small. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago. He could be another honey badger, but Weeks was pushed around in that A&M game a little bit too much more than we had thought, and he couldn't catch up to Reed, the quarterback. So that's the only thing I go. But going back to the Saints, I think defensive backfield, I think they're okay. They're getting there. And I agree with you about Marshall Lattimore. I told people that. Well, we never heard anything about Marshall Lattimore. That's a good thing. When the announcers and you're not seeing him on TV, that means he's covering his guys so good to where they're not going to that receiver that he's covering at all. No, he's one of the best cover cornerbacks I've seen in the National Football League in a long time, and he didn't get the press that he normally should get. But I think he's one of the best cover cornerbacks, in the Saints' history. I really do. I mean, he's been that good. When we come back, it's LSU and Alabama week. We'll talk about that when we come back right here as we continue to talk sports with me, Chris Powers. Jonathan here. Marty is in the house. Back in a moment right here on Pelican Sports TV.
We're a nation of hardworking Americans, and businesses will always be the lifeline of this great country. As a business owner, you understand the importance of your reputation. In times of uncertainty, you need a real lawyer who's serious about protecting you and your business. You need a problem solver. You need the law firm of Clayton and Fouget. Tony Clayton is a proven trial lawyer. He'll defend you and your business to the fullest extent of the law. Protect your investment and call the law firm of Clayton and Fouget today.
If you're a wing lover like me, you already know where the best and biggest wings in Baton Rouge are. TJ Ribs on Acadian and I-10. But did you know they also provide some of the best catering in town? Yeah. Their catering packages are custom built for parties and tailgates and overflowing with the tastiest barbecue you can find. Whether you go with the MVP package, the Heisman, or the Natty, you can't go wrong with TJ Ribs because it's not just jumbo wings. They serve up truly tender beef brisket, perfectly roasted pulled pork, and smoky fall-off-the-bone baby back ribs. Don't forget the savory sausage and chopped beef. Come on down to TJ Ribs on Acadian and I-10, proud sponsors of the LSU Tigers and the Southern University Jaguars. Make a fun run in Livingston Parish now with all kinds of events for the whole family. The Livingston Parish Convention and Visitors Bureau invites you to a girls' night out on November 8th in Denham Springs. Get your tickets now and don't miss out. On Sunday, November 10th is the City of Walker Veterans Day Parade at 10 a.m. The lighting of the old City Hall in Denham Springs on November 29th. Christmas open house on November 30th. And Christmas in Denham Springs from November 29th to December 21st through historic downtown Denham Springs. wings. Enjoy the sounds of Swamp Pop at Grand Country Junction on November 16th. And on December 21st, it's the Merry Christmas from the Grand Junction in Livingston, Louisiana. Doors open at 5:30 p.m. and shows start at 7 p.m. Tickets are on sale for $15 for adults, $10 for kids 4 through 12, and children under 3 are free. For more information, visit LivingstonTourism.com. That's LivingstonTourism.com. Livingston Parish, make a fun run.
LSU Alabama week, you got to be happy, except if you're a guy named Lane Kiffin. I wanted that night game, Jack. I wanted that night game. Why they give it to LSU Alabama? Because you are not a brand. Ole Miss is not a brand. Sorry, you're not. You're not a brand. Georgia is. LSU Alabama are, but you not. Sorry, that's the way it works. 4 weeks left, and LSU is basically everybody's one loss in there. A&M being beat knocks LSU out of the tiebreaker to get there. But, again, you still got 4 weeks left. And so they have a 3-1 mark. Needed to win out and got help to get to Atlanta. They got to get help. So with that, if they beat Alabama this week, when it comes to a tiebreaker between LSU and Georgia, and if one losses, bye-bye Georgia, because they lost to Alabama. LSU would have beaten Alabama. So this is a big game for LSU and Tiger Stadium this weekend. It's supposed to be a 40% chance of rain, so people are asking me if the storm comes in, what's going to happen with that. Right now, only a 40% chance of rain. Obviously, very much could change between now and then, so it could be a rainy night in Tiger Stadium. So at least we won't hear Dan Bernay saying it, because he's out anyway. Well, Bill Franquez says it never rains in Tiger Stadium. When they say that every time, that's the only time that I get ticked off with that, because I was there for the LSU-Miami Hurricane game years ago. Jimmy Johnson still head coach, and it drenched. It was horrible. That's when you can have umbrellas in Tiger Stadium. I had a lady with a flat-top umbrella, and every time she leaned back, it was like a 5-gallon bucket of water being poured on me. And I tapped her on the shoulder and said, "Ma'am, could you please stop that?" And her husband, boyfriend, whoever he was, turned around and looked at me like he wanted to fight me. I said, "Brother, I could kick you and you'd go 40 rows down that way. Don't say another word to me at all." Miserable game. We got our butts beat in that game. Tommy Hodson was quarterback. Wendell Davis was gone, of course. It was a horrible game, but, man, I'll never forget that game. I was in that. So when they say never rains at Tiger Stadium, I want to take a beer bottle and knock it over somebody's head, because I know it does. But I don't know what – Jonathan, do you know the history behind that, why they say that?
Yeah, because it never rains at Tiger Stadium.
Jonathan,
Chris.
come over here so I can knock you upside the head right
Chris,
now.
it never rains at Tiger Stadium.
Come on, man. 89th meeting between these two teams. ESPN College Game Day will be there in the quad. So, Jonathan, let me ask you. I had a friend of mine ask me, do you think that Nick Saban will get big-time booed and there'll have to be, extra security around? I don't think so. I think LSU fans will be okay with Nick Saban being there, huh?
Chris, everything that LSU fans have come to love was
Yeah.
rebirthed by that man, Nick Saban.
That's what
I think
say.
everyone understands that. Whatever the booing section, it better be way in the back, because guy started something, awoke a sleeping giant, poked the bear, whatever you want to say. The LSU that you love today, the brand was started because of Nick Saban. There's no doubt.
Do you think he should be in the Ring of Honor then?
Give it time. Hey, time heals all wounds, Chris. It's still too fresh. It's still too fresh. I think a lot of LSU fans, like, they took our treasured prize. Like, yeah, he's supposed to go to NFL and make it in the NFL, but when he didn't, he was supposed to come right back.
Right.
And that's how a lot of LSU fans treated it.
Right.
That's why they didn't like Nick Saban. Didn't like Les Miles. But it was meant to be the way it was. Without Nick Saban going to Miami, Saints would have never got Drew Brees. Orgeron would have never had the best college football team in the history of college football. So it all worked out how it's supposed to.
Right.
I think Nick Saban is going to get a lot of love, and it's well-deserved from LSU fans.
I think he should be in the Ring of Honor. I do.
Well, I mean,
really
Chris,
do.
he's in the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame already, and that was a great turnout. And everybody was loving on him then, so I don't see why it'd be any different.
Yeah, I agree. Brian Kelly is 13-0 with 9 games at Tiger Stadium and is 17-1 overall at LSU at Tiger Stadium. The only loss comes against the Tennessee Volunteers. Now, LSU will be without Garrett Dellinger. He had surgery for a high ankle sprain. He's a very massive guard. Freshman Paul Mubinger, I don't know how you say his last name, will start in that spot. It'll be his first career start. So we'll see how that goes. Someone or some scheme will have to contain quarterback Jalen Milroe. That's the bottom line. If you struggle with Reed, wait till you get to Milroy. Remember,
Yeah.
Milroy was discovered as a running quarterback against LSU a year ago. So Jonathan, let's put your defensive coordinator hat on. Who would you put as the spy? You have to have a spy on Milroy, I think. What say you?
Right, and not only just a spy, you have to contain. It starts with the edge rush. You
Right.
can't get too far upfield and get pushed behind the quarterback, or he's going to take off. He tries to extend plays out the pocket and then make throws down the field. Last year, they really didn't know what they had with Milroy, as you mentioned. He's kind of discovered as a running quarterback against LSU. So they were trying to really work out their system. Now they've had an entire offseason and now 8 games to get that system right. Milroy, a very accomplished runner, thick guy, well put together. He can lower his shoulder and run over a quarterback, no doubt. So LSU is going to be a team defense. You got to contain with the edge rush. Braden Swinson is really leading that charge with the pressures and the sacks on opposing quarterbacks. As LSU, I think, is 3rd in the SEC and 10th in the nation in sacks. So lots of pressure on Milroy, but can't over pursue, can't get pushed back the quarterback. And then 100%, no doubt in my mind, you have to spy with that man, Whit Weeks. The only linebacker fast enough, can run sideline to sideline. A good tackler, a little bit undersized for that middle spot, but in my opinion, there's no doubt he's your best linebacker to spy, and he's really the only linebacker that can run with Jaden Milroy.
No question. All right, let's break it down. You ready? Let's do it. Offense for the LSU Tigers, 5th in the SEC with 448 yards per ball game. When they playing the defense for Alabama, they are 11th in the SEC. 11th, Jonathan. I don't ever remember Alabama being 11th in the SEC in defense. 337.8 yards they give up per ball game. Advantage goes to LSU. Pass. When LSU is passing the ball with Nussmeier, they are 2nd with 333 yards per ball game. Against the pass, the Alabama Crimson Tide is 6th with 193. When LSU decides to run, Jonathan, cover your ears, LSU is 16th in the conference with running the football at 115.3 yards per game. If they can find a running game, Jonathan, this is it, because Alabama is 14th against the run.
Yeah.
They are giving up 144 yards a game. That's the key. That's the weakest part of Alabama's defense is stopping the run. So that's the way that works out. All right, so let's take a look at the offense for Alabama. They are 6th in the SEC with 431 yards per ball game. They have every single game they play, okay? LSU's defense ranks 13th in the SEC at 360.8 yards per ball game, so advantage goes to Alabama there. When Alabama decides to pass the ball, they are 7th in the SEC with 254.1 yards per game. Against the pass, LSU is 12th against the pass at 230 yards are given up per ball game. Now, when Alabama decides to run, they're 5th. They're 177.6, but a lot of that is Milroy. So against the run, LSU is 11th in the SEC at 130.8 yards they give up per ball game. So that's the way I see it with that. So defensive points, LSU is 13th. They give up 23 points a ball game. Alabama is 6th. They give up 19 points a ball game. Offensive points, LSU is 7th with 33 points per ball game. Alabama is 4th at 38 points per ball game. Home field, advantage obviously LSU. So stat-wise, Jonathan, they're right there. They're right there and close. The question is, the 2 losses that Alabama has are both on the road.
Yep.
They're both at Vanderbilt and at Tennessee. They lost in Nashville, and they lost, of course, in Knoxville. So it's going to be a tough game, I think. LSU won the last home game in overtime. And Nick Saban took his old mentality hat off, and he went for 2-point conversions on, 3 drives?
Yep.
And instead of him, if he would have kicked the extra point in those drives, then that last drive that Alabama drove down the length of the field would have been for the win, a winning field goal, not a tying field goal.
Yeah.
Would have been for the win.
Yeah, Saturday night in Death Valley. College game day is coming, so it's going to get started really early on campus. They're going to be right there in the quad. Nick Saban, Pat McAfee, they're going to get the crowd going. Someone is kicking a field goal for over $100,000 with a chance to win over $100,000 from Pat McAfee. So it's going to be an absolutely crazy atmosphere. BK 13-0 night games in Death Valley. They call it Death Valley, the place where opponents' dreams come to die for a reason. It's going to be tough. You mentioned the last time that Crimson Tide came to Death Valley. It was a 32-31 overtime winner. Mason Taylor from Jaden Daniels right there in the front corner of the end zone. Phenomenal win. The fans stormed the field. It was a great night for LSU, great night for Brian Kelly in year 1. Now we're in year 3. A lot on the line. Obviously, it's an elimination game. You lose this game, you're out of the playoffs, so a lot on the line. Obviously, it's a rivalry game. It used to be, back in the day of defense, it was the greatest game of the century, 6-3, 6-9. These are not those teams. This game is going to see a lot of scoring. I don't think either side it really has the defense that they was once boasted about, including Alabama. They give up some yards. Look for Mason Taylor to have a big game against those linebackers. He's a tough matchup. LSU has to have some type of wrinkle in the run game. Cannot be one-dimensional. Coach Brian Kelly talked about it all yesterday in his press conference, how they need to be more balanced. It can't be all on Garrett Nussmeier to go make plays. Not that Nussmeier has done a bad job. He actually has 20 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. So the clip's pretty good. Just can't fall all on his shoulders. You mentioned it, 16th in the SEC in rushing, behind an offensive line that truly, truly believed that they'd be up for the Joe Moore Award at the end of the year. So, can LSU do it? Absolutely. You got to believe in the magic of Saturday night in Death Valley. And Kalen DeBoer, he's never been here, never faced it, definitely never faced it Saturday night. So, got to get nice and loud if you're going to the game, if you're going to watch it on TV. Pay attention to the early start for LSU. Can't get behind the sticks. If you give Jaden Milroe in that offense plenty of time with the football, they're going to score. LSU has to shorten that game. Ball controls will be the name of the game, and it starts with that running game. LSU has to find a run game.
Yep. In fact, I got the scoop on who's going to be the field goal kicker for the Pat McAfee field goal.
Who is it?
Marty!
Oh, no. Post-injury. No.
Marty is the guy. Who you think is going to be the celebrity guest picker? Who would you like to see?
Well, I mean, that's the thing about LSU. There's been so many stars just in the last 5 years. You can go Joe Burrow. You can go Kim Mulkey, Angel Reese, Livy Dunn. You can go Paul Skeens. Odell Beckham Jr., Malik Neighbors. Go down the list, Jaden Daniels. I mean, these guys all are busy. They're all working. But the amount of stars that LSU has to choose from is unbelievable. They went down to South Carolina, let that other coach, I don't even like to say her name because I'm not a fan of the South Carolina Lady Gamecocks coach, but I would like to see Kim Mulkey, such a superstar.
Same way.
Used to the big moment. She'll put on a great face for the LSU brand, and she understands sports. She can talk sports with the best of them, not just basketball, so she'll do a good job. If it's Kim Mulkey, I would like to see that.
You took words right out of my mouth. I hope it's Kim Mulkey, me. I really do. I'm going to look right now to see if they're playing that day, which would be the 9th this week? Yep, the 9th. And they are not playing. I hope it's Kim Mulkey. I hope it's Kim. What do they play? Do they play anywhere on the 10th? They're not playing anywhere on the 10th. They play Northwestern State at home at Baton Rouge on the 8th, Friday the 8th. I hope it's Kim Mulkey. I hope it's Kim Mulkey. And the only problem is they wouldn't have to use the jet. They wouldn't have to use the wheels-up jet. So it's going to be interesting. LSU versus Alabama. The Crimson Tide ranked 11th in the nation. LSU 14th in the nation on ABC. Says 6:30, but the pregame show takes it all the way to about 6:50. And that game will be at Tiger Stadium. And I love that because, Marty, you know why? I'll be at home. I'll be finished with the Southern game. I'll be at home, be able to watch the game and miss all that traffic. When we come back, speaking of Southern had a big game against Alabama A&M. And it's a big opportunity for them this weekend. We'll explain when we come back as we're talking sports with me, Chris Powers, right here on Pelican Sports TV.
If you're a wing lover like me, you already know where the best and biggest wings in Baton Rouge are. TJ Ribs on Acadian and I-10. But did you know they also provide some of the best catering in town? Yeah. Their catering packages are custom built for parties and tailgates and overflowing with the tastiest barbecue you can find. Whether you go with the MVP package, the Heisman, or the Natty, you can't go wrong with TJ Ribs because it's not just jumbo wings. They serve up truly tender beef brisket, perfectly roasted pulled pork, and smoky fall-off-the-bone baby back ribs. Don't forget the savory sausage and chopped beef. Come on down to TJ Ribs on Acadian and I-10, proud sponsors of the LSU Tigers and the Southern University Jaguars. Make a fun run in Livingston Parish now with all kinds of events for the whole family. The Livingston Parish Convention and Visitors Bureau invites you to a girls' night out on November 8th in Denham Springs. Get your tickets now and don't miss out. On Sunday, November 10th is the City of Walker Veterans Day Parade at 10 a.m. The lighting of the old City Hall in Denham Springs on November 29th. Christmas open house on November 30th. And Christmas in Denham Springs from November 29th to December 21st through historic downtown Denham Springs. Enjoy the sounds of Swamp Pop at Grand Country Junction on November 16th. And on December 21st, it's the Merry Christmas from the Grand Junction in Livingston, Louisiana. Doors open at 5:30 p.m. and shows start at 7 p.m. Tickets are on sale for $15 for adults, $10 for kids 4 through 12, and children under 3 are free. For more information, visit LivingstonTourism.com. That's LivingstonTourism.com. Livingston Parish. Make a fun run.
We're a nation of hardworking Americans, and businesses will always be the lifeline of this great country. As a business owner, you understand the importance of your reputation. In times of uncertainty, you need a real lawyer who's serious about protecting you and your business. You need a problem solver. You need the law firm of Clayton and Fouget. Tony Clayton is a proven trial lawyer. He'll defend you and your business to the fullest extent of the law. Protect your investment and call the law firm of Clayton and Fouget today.
All right, welcome back, everybody. It's Talking Sports with me, Chris Powers. Southern University, big win against Alabama A&M. I was doing the play-by-play. Had to be in the main booth because the Go Jag Sports was, or HBCU Go, was doing the game on national TV. So I was in the main press box, and I looked over to Jim Kleinpeter, who was the advocate beat writer for the Southern, and I told him, I said, do you realize the last 2 drives for Southern University has covered over 132 yards? 132 yards they've had the last 2 drives, and after that they started doing good. They scored 5 out of their last 8 drives. Big one over Alabama A&M. They had to come back from behind to win that game, which was pretty good. Last second drive, that was pretty impressive. So here's a big stat for you. Southern is 5-0 when they score over 20 points. When they score under 20 points, they're 0-4. So getting over 20 points is the key for the Jaguars this year. Also, that game was the first game they did not turn the ball over, not one time. That was huge. That was very, very huge, so that was big. All right, now what I said that Southern can happen this weekend is Southern can win the SWAC West Divisional Championship this weekend. And I said that to the media today at the press conference, and they all looked at me like, no, I don't think so. Yeah, let me explain. So the Alcorn State Braves lost this past weekend. They're 1 game back. Southern has a tiebreaker over them. So say they lose this week again, they host Texas Southern. That makes them have now 3 losses, and Southern is ahead by 2 if they win. But we own the tiebreaker over them, so Alcorn's done. Alcorn is gone. What about UAPB? They also got beat last weekend. They play at Alabama A&M. If they lose this weekend, they would have 4 losses. We'd have only 1 with 2 games left. Bye. Southern wins the SWAC Western. They have the tiebreaker over Texas Southern. They have the tiebreaker over Prairie View, and Grambling is 1-4. So the Bayou Classic would just mean pride. That's it. So Southern could win the West this week. If not, let's say all 3 win this week. Doesn't matter. Southern beats UAPB next week. They win the SWAC West. So it's either this week or next week. If Southern takes care of business and win both of those games, Southern will win the West. I called Andrew Roberts on Saturday before I went on the air. I called Andrew Roberts and I said, all right, Andrew, if Southern and Jackson State end in a tie, where's the championship going to be played? And before he could say Jackson State, I said, wait a minute. When Jackson State and Southern played each other, because it goes by head-to-head, it was a non-conference game. He goes, Chris, we've never been in that situation. He doesn't know. They're going to have to vote on it somehow, some way. They have to go to the next tier, which means familiar opponents. And so that's how that's going to work out. So it's going to be interesting to see how that happens. But Jackson State's still got to play Alabama State, which is right behind them and one of the best defenses in the country. And they got to also play Alcorn State in the last game of the year. So it's going to be interesting to see. But Southern can win the West this week or next week. If they win both of those games, Southern wins the SWAC West, and they will be the Western Division champs again. And it would be, I think, the ninth time. It'd be the 9th time they won the West. 9th time in team history, in school history, they won the West. All right, so Bethune-Cookman Wildcats coming in. They beat Grambling from Daytona. They are a gutsy football team. Stat-wise, they do not have good stats. And Coach Graves today said, well, it's because of the games they played in the bigger opponents. No, I use only conference stats because of that, what you said. I only use conference stats. Okay, Bethune-Cookman was down 21-7 in the third quarter, and they went on to score 17 unanswered points at beating Grambling State on this past Saturday. Quarterback Ransom had 2 incompleted passes. That's it, just 2. He had a 58-yard touchdown bomb going to the end of the third quarter, and then Grambling went 3 and out. They had to punt the football. Then running back Palmer ran a 42-yard run for the touchdown against Grambling, and that was a big deal for that. Now, they're a gutsy football team because not last week, but 2 weeks ago, they played Jackson State, and it was their homecoming. It was 17-17 at halftime with Jackson State, who's the best team in the SWAC so far. So this team is gutsy. You can't totally all give it to them. Let's look at the matchup here, what we're giving to them. Offensive scoring. Southern University is 8th with 22 points per ball game. Bethune-Cookman is 11th. They only average 19, but that's only a 3-point difference. Advantage goes to Southern. Offensive yardage. Southern is 5th. Bethune-Cookman is 11th. Advantage Southern. Passing yards. They're 8th. Southern is 8th. Bethune-Cookman is 10th. Advantage Southern. Rushing yards. Southern is 5th. They're 9th. Advantage Southern. Defensive points. Southern is 2nd, only in points given up. They're 11th in points giving up. Defensive yards. Southern is 4th. Bethune-Cookman is 12th. Versus the run, Southern is 7th. They're 12th. Versus the path, Southern is 2nd against the pass. They're 8th against the pass. You see what I'm saying? Every one of those categories I gave to you, advantage Southern. What do you think is going to happen in this ball game? I mean, again, you can't take them for granted. And for the fans out there, I want you to know that Southern can win the West. So buy those tickets, and you could be able to witness a Western Divisional Championship. But also, Jonathan, Kobe Dillon looked very good this week. But first of all, before we get to Kobe Dillon, how about Xavier Tissette, the young man who's doing unbelievable from Scotlandville? He is a redshirt freshman. He passed for 3 touchdowns, 9 different receivers. He also passed for 294 yards. He was named the SWAC Player of the Week. Pretty impressive for that young man.
Yeah, he was absolutely the engine that made the car go. Dupree Fuller had a phenomenal one-handed catch right there at the game winner for the last score. Southern did go for 2, didn't get it. So 25-20 with the comeback win for Coach Graves. And, can't say enough for T-Set. He does give Southern a little bit something extra outside the pocket. He can turn it up, and that guy looks for yards when he gets to run, and he's well put together. He's tough to tackle, great athlete, but left-handed quarterback just finds ways to extend plays and get the ball out. Good anticipation. I think Southern finally settled on their man. Of course, T-Set struggled with some injuries, but looks to be healthy now. And Kobe Dillon, can't say enough the way they leaned on him in that first half. And look, Coach T. Graves, he's been building this the whole season. This is not some surprise to him. He expected to be in this exact situation, competing for the West for that SWAC championship. So it's all right there in front of the Southern Jags, and really getting hot at a good time.
Kobe Dillon, when healthy, he's an unbelievable back. He had over 200 yards rushing and against UAPB a couple of years ago, so he's pretty impressive. Yeah, you talk about that Dupree Fuller touchdown. The defender had his right arm. Yeah. He stuck his left arm out and caught the touchdown pass that way. Yeah. That was his second one-handed catch of the ball game.
Yeah, and the defender jumped on his back trying to ride him down, but Dupree Fuller, just a big guy, very well-spoken young man. His interview, post-game interview, would be featured on Coach Terrence Graves' show. So, great young man. Happy for that young man. He's been having a phenomenal, very productive year for the Southern Jags. Both tight ends really have. But Dupree Fuller, a fan favorite, and what a great catch. And to carry the defender in the end zone was pretty awesome.
Yeah, pretty impressive. So can Xavier Tissette put 2 games together? Right. We're going to see. It'll be interesting to see. The Jaguar fans, first time I've seen that little low of Jaguar fans on the road, and simply because of the fact we've gone 1,850 miles in 2 weeks. That's absolutely incredible. I don't ever remember, since I've been doing Southern since 2001, that has ever happened, that we've gone that many miles in just 2 weeks. That was pretty impressive. All right, when we come back, we're going to have Where I Was Right, Where I Was Wrong, and our Hot 5 pick for this weekend. Jonathan and I will look at it as we continue with the Talkin' Sports with me, Chris Powers Show, right after this timeout on Pelican Sports TV.
Make a fun run in Livingston Parish now with all kinds of events for the whole family. The Livingston Parish Convention and Visitors Bureau invites you to a girls' night out on November 8th in Denham Springs. Get your tickets now and don't miss out. On Sunday, November 10th is the City of Walker Veterans Day Parade at 10 a.m. The lighting of the old City Hall in Denham Springs on November 29th. Christmas open house on November 30th. And Christmas in Denham Springs from November 29th to December 21st through historic downtown Denham Springs. Enjoy the sounds of Swamp Pop at Grand Country Junction on November 16th. And on December 21st, it's the Merry Christmas from the Grand Junction in Livingston, Louisiana. Doors open at 5:30 p.m. and shows start at 7 p.m. Tickets are on sale for $15 for adults, $10 for kids 4 through 12, and children under 3 are free. For more information, visit LivingstonTourism.com. That's LivingstonTourism.com. Livingston Parish. Make a fun run.
We're a nation of hardworking Americans, and businesses will always be the lifeline of this great country. As a business owner, you understand the importance of your reputation. In times of uncertainty, you need a real lawyer who's serious about protecting you and your business. You need a problem solver. You need the law firm of Clayton and Fouger. Tony Clayton is a proven trial lawyer. He'll defend you and your business to the fullest extent of the law. Protect your investment and call the law firm of Clayton and Fouger today.
If you're a wing lover like me, you already know where the best and biggest wings in Baton Rouge are. TJ Ribs on Acadian and I-10. But did you know they also provide some of the best catering in town? Yeah. Their catering packages are custom built for parties and tailgates and overflowing with the tastiest barbecue you can find. Whether you go with the MVP package, the Heisman, or the Natty, you can't go wrong with TJ Ribs because it's not just jumbo wings. They serve up truly tender beef brisket, perfectly roasted pulled pork, and smoky fall-off-the-bone baby back ribs. Don't forget the savory sausage and chopped beef. Come on down to TJ Ribs on Acadian and I-10, proud sponsors of the LSU Tigers and the Southern University Jaguars.
All right, welcome back, everybody, as we continue to talk sports with me, Chris Powers. The show seen 5 times a week right here on Pelican Sports and on Cox Cable, Tuesdays at 11 a.m., Thursdays at 11 a.m. and 7 p.m., Fridays at 9 p.m., and Saturday afternoon, I should say evening, at 8:30. Show is seen in 89% of the metro New Orleans area, 400,000 in the Baton Rouge area, 140,000 in Lafayette, also seen in Morgan City and parts of Lafayette. We're also on the app, as well as YouTube as well. All right, where I was right, where I was wrong, and finally, Jonathan, I go 5-0. All 5 picks. Man, Vegas must be going crazy. It was tough, but let's take a look at it. I was 5-0 this week, 24-20 on the year. I had Ohio State winning by 3 over Penn State and Happy Valley. Ohio State wins it by 7. I was right. Ole Miss I had by 3 over Arkansas. Thought Arkansas would play a little better than that. They won by 32, the Ole Miss Rebels. Jonathan, were you surprised by that?
Ole Miss can score. Yeah, I thought Arkansas, after playing LSU the way they did, it was more of a fight. But, no, I'm not surprised Ole Miss put up those kind of points.
Florida got into the Saints bug. Injuries all over the place. And they got injuries all over the place in the largest cocktail party in the world.
Yeah.
They got beat. I had Georgia winning by 7. They got beat by 14, but still a closer game than they'd want it to be. No surprise here. I thought Georgia was easily the better team, but Florida Gators, I don't know. There's still talks that Billy Napier may be still gone. I don't know. It's interesting to see what happens here.
Yeah, they showed a lot towards the second half of this season. They really did battle Georgia pretty close all the way through halftime. It was a very close game. In fact, Florida led the game for the first quarter and into the second quarter. So yeah, Georgia just too much for the Gators. I don't know if Coach Billy Napier survives this year. I do believe they should give him one more year, that 4th year, just to get all of his guys in the building. But yeah, good game, good showing, even though they did lose by 14.
Kentucky can go either way. They're one of the teams you don't want to play. And they obviously, big win this year over, South Carolina beat Kentucky, right?
Yep. In week 2, I think, or week 1 of the SEC.
Marty's like, huh? I don't know. Kentucky goes to Tennessee. I had Tennessee by 7. They won by 10. But Kentucky kind of got on them a little bit. So Tennessee, they got them as the 7th-ranked team in the nation, but I'm not sold on Tennessee being a top 10 team right now.
Yeah, they're based on a quarterback play who's been good. Nico, still don't know his last name, but he's been really good this season. Coach Heupel, very good offensive mind, and defensively, they do just enough. Great environment up there in Knoxville. They've been having that. They had the blackout jerseys. It was a pretty cool environment. So, well-fought game. Kentucky, I still think they're a very good football team. They can control the ball for a long period of time. But if they don't not clicking through the air, it's really tough to just depend on ground game the entire game.
Right. And then Oregon, I had by 3 going into Michigan.
Yeah.
They won by 21. That was big. I was right on all 5. Not a surprise there, but a big surprise is now that Michigan is going over and they want the number 1 player in the country, the number 1 quarterback in the country. They're offering him up to $5 million. It looks like they're trying to flip also a cornerback who is a teammate of his. And look, what do you think? What are your thoughts? I think he's going to go to Michigan.
No, I think he's pretty set. LSU.
You think Underwood's coming
in?
in?
I think Underwood's going to be in the building. Of course, after that story did break, Dave Portnoy was supposed to get involved and give whatever amount of money he had to get for Michigan to get the elite quarterback, and that was Bryce Underwood. But the day after that, I think somebody posted a picture of him at school wearing LSU gear and said he was locked in, committed 100%. So I do believe he's coming. Look, nobody knows till you sign on a dotted line. $5 million isn't $10 million, so you never know how much money they can offer these kids to play football, especially if you're desperate for a quarterback like Michigan appears to be. You don't want to fall off a cliff. You just won a national championship last year. You want to stay relevant. You got to stay high. You got to stay in the news. So pulling that number 1 overall quarterback would do that, but I think he's locked in for the Tigers. He saw Joe Burrow. He saw Jaden Daniels change their lives by coming to LSU, win the Heisman, play on Monday Night Football, leading their franchises. So I think he's locked in, but you just never know.
All right, here we go. It's my hot 5 for this week. Get ready. Here we go. Put it up, and there it is. Alabama at LSU. I'm going to be a homer on this, Jonathan. I'm going to say LSU by 3.
Saturday night in Death Valley, Coach BK 13-0. I also have to take the Tigers. I'll take the 3 points, no doubt. Give me the Tigers at home.
Boy, it's going to be a wild atmosphere. It could be rainy there, so it could be interesting to see what happens with that. If it is rainy, can we pass the ball in the slick conditions? We'll have to wait and see. Georgia goes to Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin wanted the game at 6:30. Instead, it's at 2:30. Georgia comes in. Ole Miss looked impressive last week against Arkansas, no question. But I'm going to give Georgia a 3-point lead over this one. I'll give them the 3 points. And I'll say this, that if Ole Miss doesn't win this, Lane Kiffin, Boo Birds will be out.
Yeah, Ole Miss, everything to win. Georgia really is trying to survive and get to the playoffs. But this is Ole Miss Super Bowl. They're really going to be gunning for Georgia. Give me the Rebels, upset alert. Give me the Rebels by 3 at home. Ole Miss, like I said, they didn't get the home game. So this is their Super Bowl. Got to be Kirby Smart this year.
All right, Florida at Texas. I got Texas because so many injuries for Florida. I got Texas by 14 points in this. I'll take UT.
Yeah, give me UT by 14. I like that.
South Carolina at Vanderbilt. I got Vanderbilt by 1 over South Carolina. I got South Carolina's going to be hit with that bug.
Hey, no diss against Vandy. They're having an incredible year, but give me South Carolina by 3.
And Bethune-Cookman at Southern. I'm going to pick this one. I got Southern by 10.
Yeah, give me Southern, the Jags. Give me winning by 14 against BC. I think the Jaguars just in a different class right now.
Yep. All right, that'll do it. They're getting hot at the right time. That'll do it for us. Talking sports with me, Chris Powers, Jonathan Marty. Thank you. See you next week.
Rocks and fires. Tommy White with it. Johnson heads to the mark.